longevity, most of us picture bigger goals, more years, more miles, more checkboxes. But just imagine, listeners, what if the secret isn't more? It's deeper, less autopilot, more awareness. Today, on this episode of The Mindful Journey, listeners, with your host Sana, we are slowing the scroll and tuning into the quiet intelligence of the body. My guest has spent 30 plus years guiding movement from 80s aerobics to bare, Pilates, and yoga, what she calls mindful movement. She's taught on college campuses, at Crunch in LA and NYC, even at Club Med, where smoke break between squats was a thing. Fitness gave her a life, mindful movement gave it meaning. And if exercise is the OG biohack, listeners, mindful movement is the part that upgrades the operating system. So let's unpack the why, what, and how gently, curiously, and with zero shame. So, listeners, meet my incredible guest, Ellen Barrett. So, Ellen, welcome to the show, and it's really an honor to have you here with us.
Hi, it's so exciting to be here.
Okay, Ellen. Okay, so first of all, I think all of our listeners will have this question. There's already exercise. Why do I need mindful movement? So, Ellen, in your experience, what makes mindful movement fundamentally different from a good workout, and why does that difference matter? Especially for longevity.
Yes, great question. So, mindful movement is embodied, and your mind is in the same place as your body. And so, you don't overdo it, you don't underdo it. It becomes medicinal, it becomes invigorating as opposed to irritating. So, it's not a bicep, it's not a squat. A squat can be mindful. Taibo can be mindful, playing tennis can be mindful, lifting weights. It's a mind behind the movement. And so it's really about being present and grounded and intuitive. So you're in your body and you can kind of be your own guru. And it makes the hugest difference because with mindful movement, you really stay in this invigorated state. And a lot of people are using fitness to abuse themselves, to torture themselves. They think they have to have pain. They think they have to push the limits. And, you might need to do that if you're playing a sport, if you're doing it for a performance. But if you are working out for your health, your well being, mindful movement's the only way to go. It doesn't make sense any other way.
Yeah, yeah. I think the no pain, no gain trap. I mean, yeah, I mean,
Yes.
there are specific, um, like sports or any particular requirement, bodybuilding and all. But I think in general, like in terms of, the effect in there, if we talk about, I think it kind of becomes like a trap. In personally, I also used to believe that, if not feeling that pain, that, my body is not in pain, then I haven't exercised. It kind of used to be like a trap for me. So yeah, I think that.
Totally. It's funny, I find, injury, pain is it's really unattractive. If
Mhm.
someone's wincing in pain, we kind of are repelled by that in a lot of ways, but it's you're energetically lowering your vibration. Pain injury is sidelining you and so I always think like the no pain, no gain is so ridiculous. I wish that would go away, that whole concept, because there's you only lose with pain, you lose, especially when it comes full to longevity.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. I love that. And of course, I think if I can summarize here, it's really like we are shifting, like we are pivoting from go harder to go aware.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, I love that. Yes. Yeah, so it's the awareness, the consciousness, the embodiment, like I mentioned before, that is a key component. It's a key component. And then any kind of movement becomes mindful and medicinal. So that's I think it's weird because our society is kind of in split. It's splitting because people are more out of body, more cerebral on one hand, but then there's a real movement to like get back to nature and, you know, bake and, move to a farm and meditate. And the whole yoga culture got, so mainstream. So we have this like two roads, right? And it's I just think there's a clear, you can have your cake and eat it too, but you really have to, get embodied. You have to get out of the cerebral mind and the go, go, go and disconnecting from your body, and you have to get into your body. That's the most important thing. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And I think let's also try to define mindful movement here. So, Ellen, if you will be the best person to define it. But let's say if somebody asks me, what is mindful movement? I may be able to give like a very vague answer in there, just based on the conversations I would have. But if I would like a one liner, which I can remember, if our listeners can remember, like how would you define it?
Yes. Great question. Mindful movement is movement that gives you energy, gives you clarity, makes you feel better, and makes you have a better day. Whereas, traditional quote unquote exercise, sometimes it does that. Oftentimes it depletes energy. It makes the rest of the day harder. It
Mm.
makes you want to escape. You're like, get me out of here. Get me out of this body. So mindful movement makes you want to live in your body. And it promotes that I don't want to leave this body. I want to be here. It feels good. So I want to be here. So it's like when someone does drugs or, is always medicating some way, a lot of times they want to be out of body. And so this is why it's just so basic, but it's so significant at the same time. And so movement can really, it's nutritious and it's nurturing. So um, you feel calm, but energized. So mindful movement, honestly, it helps you feel better, helps you give you energy. The real marker is, do you have more energy after you're moving? Then you're doing something right because it shouldn't deplete.
Exactly. I think instead of crippling us, it is empowering us.
Exactly, exactly. I always say hashtag empowered wellness because ultimately movement isn't about fitness, it's about your overall well-being. And that's another component to mindful movement is that it's your whole life. It's not just your body. It's your
Mm.
mental state. It's your sort of level of inspiration. So it's your confidence. So it really transcends the body in a lot of ways, which is ironic because it happens in the body. It's a physical thing, but then it becomes it envelops you as a whole. So it's super. I mean, I just am so passionate about it because if more people did it, if more women partook in it and sort of disavowed the torturous stuff, I think the world would be a better place. We'd have happier people.
That is true. That's true.
And we'd have people that wanna work out because a lot of people are so turned off by
Yes.
movement and exercise because they only know of it as grueling and
Yeah.
pain, but, that's not how it has to be at all.
That is true. And look, personally, if I can add on to this, I think so. I used to be like, not exactly a gym goer, but I would still prefer home workouts. I love home workouts.
Mm.
I used to do that like 5, 6 years back, and um, of course, because of some personal turbulence and all that, it kind of left. Uh, like I completely left it, and there has been quite a like it kind of this feeling of guilt and shame and that fear that if I'm not working out, then it is consuming my number of years. It's making me weak. It's making me look bad as well, appear bad as well. That kind of feeling, it wallows you from inside out. So I mindful movement here gives that ray of hope needed, because you are absolutely right. A person who is who may not have the privilege of even devoting an hour every day for gym, at least they would have some kind of avenue in there to make sure that they're, not just moving, but they are actually activating all the different components of their body, mind, and emotions and everything, energy into whatever they're doing. Even if it's for, just 2 hours a week. Like I have had been on conversations with, people who are actually bringing in some intensive workouts, but mindful workouts, which are, just there for 2 hours or 3 hours a week.
I love it. So the defining characteristic is, am I
Mm.
working out because I love myself? Am I working out because I hate myself? And so if you're working out because you love yourself, it's nurturing, it's nourishing, and it's not abusive, and you're not doing it out of lack, you know? And if you are working out because you love yourself, it's because you are, it's feeding you. It's feeding you on a bigger level. And but it's that guilt thing again, that is a it's like a paradigm from the 80s and 70s and 80s, maybe the early 90s. It's like it doesn't have to be that way. I mean, when I teach classes and when I take a class, I'm like, this is the best thing ever. I'm like, I don't look at it as like, oh God, I have to go take this class. Or, yeah, I don't look at it like that. And I think that I'm probably a rare person for that on a lot of levels, but um it's a privilege. It's a really different mental it's a different point of view. But really it comes down to if you're invigorating your body, you wanna do it just like you know, wanna watch the sunset or you want to, eat dinner when you're hungry. It's the same kinda drive. And, the human body is not meant to be idle. And so a lot of people have very physical jobs, and the last thing they probably need to do is something really intense. They could do simple stretching, they could do a gentle yoga class, they could do 10 minutes of core work. Um, Whereas most people, in the United States especially, there's so much sedentary lifestyle. We're in cars, we're at desks. So, movement is such a counteraction to that, and it's this balancer, invigorator. Um, so it really does. You have to zoom out and see what your body needs. What does your life need? And I think that's mindful as well. So that's another layer to mindful movement is like really zooming out and seeing what you need to balance yourself out. I mean, I went for a big walk with my dogs today and I was like, the air was so fresh and it was so crisp outside. And it was just what the doctor ordered after, working a lot in the morning. And so that's the thing. It's like really getting intentional about what you want, knowing who you are, like know what you need because you're dynamic. One day you might be full of energy. The next day you might need a nap more than you need exercise. So, if you've been traveling, if there's just so many things. So there's so many components. We've looked at it, especially in the United States, people look at things so black and white. Like I have a spin class on Monday night. I gotta go do a 75-minute spin class. And it's like, maybe not. Maybe that's not right for you. So it's really about getting sensitive and getting aware of like acutely aware so you can be your own guru. And mindful movement is the avenue to that for sure. But no guilt.
Okay, exactly. No guilt. Sometimes I think we can be very attentive to like how our body is responding. Let's say today I had a 20-25 minutes of brisk walking, like 1.5, like in India, like we tell in kilometers. So I kind of, try to understand like how my body is responding because as you mentioned in the States as well, and in India also, like many people who are like, in a complete corporate culture, or maybe most of they're doing virtual work, working from home. It's mostly like sitting and working in the same position for maybe hours and hours. So I think, or maybe another way of like checking on your body is like you go out for groceries, and if you can pick the grocery bags and climb, even one flight of stairs without that huffing and puffing. I think, or maybe if it's happening to you, I think that's kind of a wake up call for you.
Totally. It is totally, and, it's that functionality, um, and it's precious. I wanna be able to run to the airport gate, when they change the gate at the last minute and you have to run across an airport with your luggage, you wanna be able to do that. And, if the elevator's broken and you have 2 bags of groceries, you wanna be able to take the stairs if you have to. If there's I have 2 very big dogs. If I need to pick them up, I can pick them up if I had to. There's an empowerment to that, and, we wanna stay as capable for as long as we can. And, movement is such it's an easy, low-hanging fruit, right? It's like, you don't have to pay much, it's mostly free. You don't need a doctor's prescription. You don't need any contraption. You can just, go for a walk. You can stretch. You can watch a video on YouTube or online somewhere. It's that should motivate us, and I do think it does motivate so many people all over the world. But I think it needs to be like, you know, people have to have that realization. It's so easy. It's like I said, it's the OG biohack, right? Mindful movement, just moving your body. We have all these fancy gizmos that everyone's touting all the time, which are probably lovely, but don't forget the basics. Don't forget moving your body, getting the oxygen flowing, getting your joints lubricated. It is so good for you, and it's right there. It's like I said, it's accessible right there. Um, and we just have to, like, love ourselves enough to cherish it and see it for what it is, 'cause it's like a pot of gold for us every day. We just have to grab it.
Exactly, exactly. And it has to come from a point of compassion, not guilt or judgment.
Exactly. Total I mean, and that's really a big mission, and I think, I have an online program that's
Mhm.
called Let's Move, and I my whole thing is like, "Let's move," that whole concept of "Let's party," or, "Let's eat," it's like, "Let's move," like, it's as good. It's as good as all that other stuff. So, um, it's like the compassion, the guilt, moving for guilt, you're doing the wrong thing. If you feel like, "Oh, I gotta do this," it should be a joyful experience. It should be something you wanna do. That's why you gotta kiss a lot of frogs before sometimes you do, before you find the one thing you wanna do. And you're gonna be dynamic and change. It might be a date time of day that's the best for you. It might be the intensity level. It might be who you're working out with. It might be a certain genre of movement. But, you want to be open to all this stuff, but keep going until you find something that you want to do. I have a lot of the healthiest people I know and the people that are the most fit in my world have an arsenal of opportunities to work out. They ride horses. They have that class on Monday night. They play tennis in the summer. They hike mountains. They have options. And then if it's snowing outside or it's too hot outside, they have something inside that they can do. And, and so that's another thing. It takes, like, as you get older, you really do start to know yourself better. And it's a beautiful thing. Like, I don't wanna take a jump roping class, but I used to. I used to, but now I'm like, "Yeah, no, I'm not that interested in that." Um, but yeah, so yeah, that what you had mentioned about the compassion, coming from a compassionate place, coming from a place of self-love, and coming from a place of, "I gotta do this. My doctor told me to do that." That's not a good place. You have to do it because, you know what? I'm really excited to get stronger. I'm really excited to get into my body. It feels so good. I actually sleep so much better after I've moved. It's like really putting all the pieces together and seeing that.
Exactly. And the nervous system also loves it.
Yes. Oh, so that's another big example, a big component, I should say, of mindful movement is that it's not irritating the nervous system. It's not up leveling the nervous system. It's regulating the nervous system. And that means there is breath, like really good breath work. You're not ever gasping for air. It can be totally intense, but you're not. getting stressed out or overdoing it to the point where your breath has to catch up. There's, flow. So your joints, a run can be a flow. Pilates is very flowy. Yoga can be very flowy. So there's needs to be a flow, and that includes the breath, but the movement. So like, um, nothing tight, jerky, sudden that can irritate you. Like if someone was like playing football and they're the defense line, American
Mhm.
football, that is. They're like, it's not flow. It's stop start. It's like, it's and that excites the nervous system. So and that could be good for somebody. But when it's for your own well-being, you really need to sort of coddle the nervous system with flow, with breath centric, with the right pace, nothing too hurried, and just the right duration. Sometimes that workout for 45 minutes is so amazing, but if you make it 90 minutes at that, like, hour mark, you cross the line into irritation. So that's another major component to mindful movement is it regulates the nervous system, doesn't excite the nervous system,
Mm.
and
And
you can
before
feel it.
Yeah, 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 exactly. And I think what you said, that irritation, I think that itself, and that's why, like, it's very common to see people, maybe for just a week or for a month, and then they are they disappear from the gyms, and
Yes.
then once again that whole loop of New Year resolution and the first quarter of the year, all gyms are full, but then after that, so I think that.
That's a perfect example of they why did their motivation stop? And it's because it wasn't feeling good. Because if it feels good, you're gonna keep doing it. And so it's so common. It's like, that New Year's resolution or you get the gym membership and the first 2 weeks you're there 6 out of 7 days and then they never see you again at that gym and you've paid for a whole year. So, yeah, it's like, you know, mindful movement, it's such a game changer because that kind of thing would be utilized if it was the right fit for you. But again, like I said, you have to kiss a lot of frogs, and maybe that gym was the wrong frog, right? And didn't turn into your prince. So, you know, that's another thing. It's like you tried, you rolled the dice, and then move on. And maybe you have to try another gym but you want to be mindful and aware of what you're doing. You don't want to waste money. You don't want to waste time. You don't want to injure yourself. Check things out for sure. But if you're not, doing it, following through, then, move on.
Exactly. And I think last, if we can talk, I think it's very necessary to talk about this because since mindful movement is actually a game changer in here, that means it is here to kind of, disrupt the, quote unquote, that exercise industry. So now, Ellen, if someone loves the grind, all this, sweat, heart rates, maximum heart rates, that no pain, no gain stuff, why should they still care about mindful movement?
Great question. And the grind and some of the intensity things that could be mindful movement for certain people, certain times. And so it's not really about easy. It's not about you know, all the time, a 15-minute yoga class like that is not that's not the point. It's really about feeling into yourself and making sure you do no harm. Ahimsa, that there's a yoga statement that's called ahimsa, means do no harm. And mindful movement is it really about doing no harm to yourself when it comes to exercise. You're not overdoing it, you're not irritating the body, and you're invigorating it. So you're ahimsa, there's do no harm. So that's where it is very individualized. Um, s- you know, Tuesday, you could really push it. And then Wednesday, maybe you need to get a massage and maybe you need to walk your dog around the block and call it a day. So
Yeah.
it's really about this intuitive, guided um, embodiment when it comes to your workout. And then when you do your workouts, you know, I love barefoot, I love breathing, I love stretch, balancing with strength. You're gonna find that that really builds this, like, invincible body that can handle mobility, it can handle, a lot of stuff, and the longevity component is really interesting because the biggest problem that people face with their bodies is mobility, and then once
Mm.
mobility goes, then they stop moving. So, that's why yoga is such a mindful movement, in general, and even a little yoga added to your boxing workout is, it could balance out that boxing workout and make it mindful.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I think that's a brilliant answer. And Ellen, if our listeners they would like to connect with you to get started with mindful movement, what would be the best way?
Well, you could check out my website, ellenbarrett.com. We have a 7-day free trial for our online movement studio. That's all mindful, all barefoot. And there's lots of classes in there. And, and yeah, people are working out. I see it every day. People are coming back and coming back again. It's totally mindful. And again, there's no guilt, no shame. Everyone, no judgment. Everyone, gets to select the workout they want to do. And so there's a lot of free will and choice. So it's really great.
Super, super. So, listeners, I'll have all the details in the show notes. So just refer to them along with this episode on whichever platform you listen to your podcast to. And I think what we practiced today in this conversation is permission to move with attention, not apology, not shame, not guilt. And Ellen beautifully reminded us that mindful movement, it isn't a trend or a buzzword or a hashtag. It's how the body prefers to be partnered with. Breath first, ego second, and always curiosity. So, thank you to everyone for tuning into this episode of the Mindful Movement. And Ellen, thank you so, so much for your words of wisdom, and for this really, really, really interesting conversation.
Thank you. So great. So nice chatting with you.
And listeners, until then, if this conversation supported you, share it with someone who's been sprinting on fumes. Until next time, move kindly, live long, and keep listening to the Mindful Journey. Thank you.